You are listening to The Fancy Black Lady.
I'm your host, Jamila Carrington Smith.
And I'm your host, Landria Seals Green.
Welcome to the Fancy Black Lady podcast. I'm your host, Jamila Carrington Smith.
And I'm your host, Landria Seals Green. And today we are talking about what Joe said and other communication gaffes. I said that right, correct? Did I?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I did.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today.
He messed up, basically.
He messed up, right? I want to make sure I don't misquote Joe.
Because who would want to do that?
Yes.
So
I don't want to misrepresent him.
I have a link to the Biden interview here, and he literally said it like in the very last few seconds of the interview. Everything was scripted. I'm sure his handlers were like, "Good job, Joe." And then
at the end,
he just insisted on messing up. It's crazy.
Did he think his microphone was off, though?
No, he didn't. He was feeling good. All right. All right. Sorry about that. Take it right here. And here we go. He starts getting loose. Here we go.
I think you got decades and decades of studies from actual weed smoking.
Yeah, I do. I know a lot of weed smokers.
I want to ask you about your running mate. I don't know if you saw, I saw today that a news report broke that Amy Klobuchar was being vetted, and a lot of people on social media, they're not too happy about that. And it's because they want your running mate to be a black woman. I don't know if you saw the op-ed in the Washington Post by some of the leading black women voices in this country, and they feel since black women are such a loyal voting bloc, and black people saved your political life in the primaries this year. They have things they want from you, and one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who's being considered, but I guarantee there are multiple black women being considered. Multiple.
So we don't get so much.
That's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to black media.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to.
And there it is.
Oh, Joe.
I know.
Well, I'm a fan of Charlemagne the God sometimes, so
I'm a fan of him most of the time. I just wish I agreed with him more.
Yeah, that's what I love his come up. You know what I mean? I remember when he was on the Wendy Williams show. So I really like the come up of Charlemagne the God. I mean, really nice from a career standpoint. But Joe.
Okay, but here's the thing. Have you ever, I say this, I already know the answer. Have you ever said something that you just had no business saying?
Absolutely.
And so for me, it's like, it's not just the thing that he said, but you know, how you handle it afterward.
You own it.
So you can own it, you can apologize, you can lean into it. And he chose the apology route. And so what I want to know is, was that really the right way to go? Because in my mind, after days of riots across the country and President Trump responding, you know, with his very disgusting answer that really just disregards the lives of the people on the ground. If you're Joe Biden, if he had not apologized, he literally could have sat back and said, the president is making my point for me. He could have sat back and let the president make his point again.
Here's the communication strategy that people keep missing is that, and what has resonated with people, good, bad, or indifferent, is that your current president says what he says without apology, and it is shot straight from the hip. Doesn't mean that it's correct or it's accurate or anything of that nature, but he leans into a space of communicated ignorance in such a way that he owns it all the time. And I just don't understand why people have not why we're trying to be so polished, articulate with our words, when all you need to do is speak from your heart. Because he's speaking from his heart, not a good heart, but he's speaking from it. I just don't get it.
Are we talking about Trump?
Yes, I went back to Trump. He's speaking from his heart.
Are we talking about Trump speaking from his heart?
I didn't say his heart was good, because not all hearts are good, but he is speaking from his heart because you feel it, right? It resonates. You feel it. You feel that level of mistreatment and disdain for people and human life. You feel it, but it's his heart. I'm not sure all the time if our
Well, it's
candidates
funny
are speaking from
because,
their heart.
well, Joe Biden unfortunately has taken on this whole persona of almost like stumbling, bumbling Joe. And if he would just kind of lean into some of his mistakes, maybe that's the thing. Maybe for him, they really are mistakes, right? For Trump, none of it is a mistake. It's just what he was thinking. In his mind, he will say, I'm saying what everybody else is thinking. That's what people always say when they say something that is egregious and horrible. Well, I'm just saying what everybody else is thinking. You know, Joe Biden is full of apology because he has an actual sense of what's right and what's wrong. And I just think he just doesn't know what to do with Black people, unfortunately, right? And so he felt like he had stepped on a hornet's nest, and so he apologized right away. But I'm also very interested in who got really offended, because I feel like it's really the fancy Black people who got most offended. Now, it is very true that no white person has any business telling any of us how to be Black. Because, 30 million Black people in the country, that means there are 30 million ways to be Black.
That's right.
That said, I feel like he could have...
That's repeatable. That's repeatable.
That is what I tell my children every day.
Repeatable.
Every day. Don't let anybody tell you how to be Black. Not white people, not Black people, not anybody. Because whatever you're doing right now is a way of being Black. It is as Black as anything you can think of, just because it's you living in your skin, doing whatever you're doing.
You're being Black.
So, I think about that and it's just like, man, it's almost like he could have just stopped short of the apology, though. He could have just said, I had no business saying that, and stop. I feel like the people who got really upset about it are the ones who, like us, live in we move in multiple circles and multiple spaces.
Right.
We're the ones whose Blackness gets questioned because we move in all these different spaces. It gets questioned by white people. It gets questioned by Black people. I'll give you the example. I think I told you this before about the person who I was working with on some volunteer stuff who said to me, and this is not the first white person who has said this to me, well, I'm Blacker than you are. And it's just like, no. You grew up poor. I get it. I understand. But, right now, your child and my child can be walking down the street, and I am the only one who is concerned about my child's mortal safety. And that's the Blackness. So, if you want to compare what it is to be Black, I'll take your poor over the possibility of my child being harmed just for being who he is.
Yeah.
So.
It's so layered. No one should tell you how to be a woman, how to be Black, how to be anything. No one should tell you how to be yourself. We raise kids, we say you be yourself, be an original. Then you become an adult and you morph into these different groups and these different things. And then Joe says what he says, and then you're like, well, I'm a Republican, I'm not a liberal. And how dare he say that I'm not Black because I vote for Trump. Now, on the record, I didn't, because your eyes are going, because I use the personal pronoun I. You're like,
no.
What?
You know what? That's not what did it for me. What did it for me was you said I'm a Republican, not a liberal.
I'm not.
Democrat.
It's Republican. Democrat. And, and I'm quoting, let me tell you, because yesterday I'm driving in my car and I'm listening to Urban Radio, the Karen Hunter show, and she's talking about what's going on. And this man calls and he wants to first talk about the fact that he's not a Republican or a liberal. And isn't that what people are saying now versus Republican and Democrat?
No.
Most people are when they are thinking about the word Democrat has been replaced by liberal, it seems.
This is something that's happening.
Yes.
It's a polluting of the waters in the communication space. This whole business of talking about every Democrat as a liberal is absolute pollution. So it is true that within the Democratic Party, and we're seeing it right now, we're seeing it play out in terms of these traditional Democrats and these liberal Democrats. And the liberal Democrats are the ones like the AOCs and the ones who are very far to the left. But I think, it's an interesting sort of conflation that has made its way into the general parlance that Republican or liberal, super interesting.
And to my point, see how this has turned into
I don't like it, but I don't
like it, but we're going there from a communication strategy standpoint. From a communication strategy standpoint, Republicans, right, wrong, or indifferent, do not apologize. They are straight laced. They're going down this road, even though it's a dark, dark road. Let me just say that.
So dark.
Even though it is a dark, dismal road, they are going down this road. They are not looking back. They are not misstepping. They are straight laced. Democrats do not yet own their communication space nor their communication agenda, which is why he is disfluent. Fluency comes by being able to be clear about your position in space. Democrats are not clear about their position in space. And so what's happening is that he who is most fluent is most believable. It's like watching a car accident. Even though both people have seen and have observed the same accident, the person who can tell the story with fluency, even if they are inaccurate, you believe them.
So that's true. And it's been true for a long time that Republicans are they're just better at the party line than Democrats. But that's because one of their core social values is obedience. There is the party line, and you better not step your butt out of line. So if the president says it, even if it's crazy, everybody just gets in line. Well, the president said it, right? Everybody gets in line. That's actually not one of the social values of Democrats in this country, in part because Democrats cast such a wide net, and there are all these groups that are actually working to sort of push the edges of that space. So they're carving out identities that we've never heard before, right? Every decade, there's this new bubble of identities. And this is where I won't so much say Republican, but I will say conservative. It is a conservative value. Sameness is a conservative value. Consistency is a conservative value, for good or bad. And obedience / loyalty. Loyalty, sounds like one thing, but in other ways, it takes the form of obedience.
Yes.
So you put all those things together, and they look like they know what they're talking about because everybody's saying the same thing. It's so interesting because at any given point, you can turn on TV, radio, whatever. You turn it on, and whatever the Republican line is for the day, you'll hear it from the president, and you'll hear it right on down the line from, senators to representatives to state government. And it's the same line. It's almost like somebody just emailed them like, this is the line today. Everybody say these words. You'll hear it filtered right on down to conservative media. I admire it, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not mad at that level of, let's keep our arguments.
I think it's being used for horrible things, but I admire the technique.
Yes, it is. The technique. And that's the thing. I'm saying have your discussions behind closed doors. It's like two parents. You're going to disagree about some things because of your own environments, how you were reared and all of that kind of stuff. But when you go out to face the kids, and you're talking about who's punished and why, you are of one mind. And I'm just saying, at some point, your communication has to be of one mind. But that, to your point, the Republican line that they follow of obedience is rooted also in a very warped Christian principle. It's so
What principle
warped.
Is that?
It's the one that they have, that slavery, it's all of the ones that just kind of keep people down. And I did say warped. I said warped.
No, you said a warped Christian principle. I'm saying, what's the principle?
The one that they have taken, the one that they took and twisted it around in such a way.
The principle of what?
The principle of obedience.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, they made muck out of it. They reimagined and told us what obedience should be.
So that is true, but it's also true that diversity is just messy, right? It's just messy because anytime you get in line and we all get our story straight and we all are telling one story, that means that 500 other stories don't get told. And so the whole point of this whole liberal project is to make sure that lots of people's stories get told. It is inherently messy.
Sameness is not what we are after. That's what they're after. But it's not what we are after at all. But there has to be, at least at some point, a true agenda that is communicated with clarity. And if the person who is representing us, he's got my vote. What I need is that team that's working with him to work on his ability to be fluent and to lean into the mistake. No one appreciates a leader who makes a mistake and zips out of it, apologizes, and then wants to dip back in it, makes another one, but never owns the mistake or leans in. Nobody appreciates that level of leadership.
As old as he is, nobody is putting him on any different course. He's going to continue to bumble and fumble. But you're right. If they can just say, you know what, Joe, lean in. Because these comments are not coming from a very dark heart. They're coming from, a good place.
No.
I think. But, lean into it. Like, man, I messed up. Shouldn't have said that.
I shouldn't have said
that. Is not the same as, I apologize to every member of the African American community. And
he don't got to apologize to me. He just say, oops, my bad.
I got excited.
Shouldn't have said it too much.
Shouldn't have said it.
Right. But I just wonder, why are we talking about two men over the age of 70 running for president? That is just disenchanting to me.
It is disenchanting.
Over the age of 70, because I feel like the political fields will be leveled when someone, an elderly, over 70 or above Latino man or Hispanic man or a Black man or a Native American man or woman, let me say that, can run for president. Well, we have to be young and healthy, do our bank accounts, do all of this stuff. We have to do all of this stuff, have a nuclear family, get all this stuff, and you could be 70.
Okay, but I kind of love that it's dueling 70-year-olds. I love that they're both these old men, only because both of them are this thing. It's like spy versus spy. It's old white man versus old white dude.
White man. Yeah,
and so,
true.
And then also, if you think about the fact that, they're old, there's something kind of great about that. So Donald Trump is this terrible person, but also he's old. So he's stripped away all of the stuff that's just like, I care about how I appear. I care about the things I say. He's got that old person thing where he's just like, I'm going to say whatever I want, right?
Exactly.
And then Joe Biden has this crazy thing where, I don't know, maybe he stumbles, maybe he doesn't, but basically he's saying whatever he wants too. And so isn't it kind of great? Because you have, Senor Darkheart,
very true,
saying whatever he wants, revealing himself to all of us. And then you have, Joe over here, Uncle Joe, who's also saying whatever he wants. You kind of look at him with a side eye a little bit, but in the end, it's not really harming anybody.
He's not harming anybody.
He was just so comfortable.
Yes.
He's talking to Charlamagne. He's like, come on, man. It's like, you come on, man. It's killing me how you're just... It's one of those things that people do when they think they're relating to you or something. And I wish they would stop.
Here is the hard pill. As a culture, we have made everyone comfortable with not only adopting parts of, our culture, stereotyped or not, because there's so many layers of who we are. So we've made everyone comfortable. We've allowed everyone in. We've given everyone a seat on the couch. We've invited most people to the barbecue because, remember, we don't say you're not invited to the barbecue. It's like you can no longer come to the barbecue. That means that person has arrived. They have eaten the ribs and tasted the special barbecue sauce. They get the flavor. And when they do something wrong, they are no longer invited back to the barbecue. We've done all of that. We have allowed people to say, I support you. And you say, thank you for being an ally and using your privilege. We've given wind to all of this stuff and this communication latitude. So yeah, he said it. He said it because we let him say anything he wants to at the barbecue. See, we've had no boundaries.
That was well said.
Thank you. I didn't even rehearse that.
We let everybody come to the barbecue.
We do. How many
ribs and now they think they're in the family.
And they think they're in the family. Mm-hmm. What they don't know is that the culture is that if you need a bed to stay in, I'll let you stay in my bed. I may not like you. I may not like your mother, but you don't have a place to stay tonight. So we don't always let people know how we truly feel about them. We just will always serve a need in front of us. because we are the ultimate givers. So many people say, oh my goodness, they gave me a bed, they gave me a plate of food, but they don't realize we do that for everybody who needs a plate. There are other places and cultures where you have to prove who you are to get a plate, prove who you are to get a seat at the table.
Yes,
we don't
true.
do that. We
It's
don't
true.
do that to anybody.
It's true.
We thank everybody. And so when you enter professional spaces and you're on the boards, they're like, oh, she has an opinion. Oh, she's saying things. Oh, she disagrees with her. How dare she? That's how, what's her name? The woman in the park. That's how Amy Cooper is shocked because she was invited to the barbecue. She went to the fundraiser. She's on the boards in her community.
She bought a plate at the dinner.
She bought a plate at the dinner, at the Obama dinner. She did all of those things, but she has never acknowledged the brain power of the brown people at the barbecue. And so when the brain starts to speak, she's like, who are you to tell me anything? All your job in life is to offer me a plate and a plate. That's all you do. I didn't know you speak too. And then you're going to tell me a rule? That's how he got away with it. That's why everybody gets away with saying crazy stuff. Because we let them. We thank them.
We do let them. We
let them. And we thank them for using their privilege to help us. I don't thank anybody for their privilege until they thank me for using my privilege. When you thank me for using my privilege, I'll thank you for using yours.
So you're talking about a different space altogether when you say we let them say or do whatever they want to say. I'm taking it all the way down to the NWord, This is not about thank you for being an ally and using your privilege kind of stuff. This is about us not even have basic agreement on how we will let ourselves be talked about in lots of spaces. But the fact that we cannot agree on this issue and the fact that everybody can come to the barbecue means that we have some very squishy understanding of who gets to use it, rules about who gets to use it, who's not supposed to use it. My position is nobody should be using it at all. It's a vulgar, ugly, ugly word. But you're right. We let them in. We let them in. And they tasted it. They tasted it. They decided it tastes nice. They like that little spice in their mouth.
That's right. They like that mild sauce.
That's not mild sauce.
That's not mild sauce? Well, I love me some mild sauce.
That's hot sauce. We're talking about the NWord. What you talking about?
Oh, okay. I was still talking about barbecue. But it's like the word bitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that word and how all of a sudden that's in place of my girls. That's a word that's used in place of friend. That's a word that's used in place of women. Why? Because we allowed it.
So I had a client who used to play basketball in college. And every time I would call her, she'd be like, "What's up, girl?" And I'm like, this is a business relationship. And she was my client. So I couldn't be like, stop it.
Yeah.
But it was terrible every single time. And she was another one of them who, because I didn't call my friends, girl this and girl that all the time. And so in her mind, because she played basketball with a bunch of black girls and maybe that's the way they talked, she's just like, well, I've got this lexicon and you don't use that lexicon. And I know that's what people use. And so what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So it reminds me very much of what was happening in that interview with Joe Biden talking to Charlemagne, come on, man and man and man. Yeah. It reminds me so much of this client going, girl. And I'm just like, stop it. I don't like it. Stop it. But again, I had no business saying that is what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's like I'm on, professional talk or I'm speaking about something, with a group of colleagues and someone describes their employees and they'll say, yeah, all of my girls. And I'm like, what do you run a brothel? This is not you run a business. They're not your girls. They're your staff. They're people that work with you. Your girls, you treat your girls nice. I'm like, oh, and you're the madam. What is this?
But that's another one of those cultural differences. It's so interesting because I was donating some clothes. So I'm putting the clothes in the bin and this guy, this old white man drives by in his truck and he goes, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. And I'm like, who's a good girl? I'm a good girl.
You're a good girl.
One of the things I was telling my husband is, this whole notion of calling women girls, it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But if you look for stock photography, for example, and you can try this, just go to Google and say, look for, boy on computer. And you will find images of boys, not men, on computer. If you Google girl on computer, you will get images of 20-something-year-old women. As long as you're attractive and young and an adult, you're considered a girl doing something. And you might get a couple of actual girls mixed in there. But, if you are a young woman anywhere up to maybe 30, you're a girl. It's so interesting.
That is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. For so long, I never wanted to call my daughter girl. And I'll say things like, hey, girl. So I say it twice so people know it's a nickname.
Okay.
Versus you're at liberty to call her girl.
Yes.
So I say, hey, girl. That's my girl. So I use two, so people would think that's her nickname, my nickname for her versus, hey, girl, because that's not that's not the kind of party we play. And I know she's just 4, but no.
Yep.
But that, dare I say, gender identity and how we define people and what we use. Because, what is the male equivalent of bitch?
I think it's the NWord.
Is it? Well, that's just terrible.
Yes, it is. It's all terrible.
That is terrible. Oh, this isn't good at all. We have so much work to do.
I hate all of it. I hate when women say, oh, it's a term of endearment for my friends. Really? Because I don't call any of my friends that word. In fact, the truth is, the only people I call that word tend to be men when I feel a certain way about them.
Yeah.
And I don't use the N-word at all because I think
we do not use the N-word. There's a different word.
Vile. It is vile.
There's a different word that we use, but we won't tell them that word. Then they'll start to, that's the word. No. You may not use that word, and we will not tell you the word here. So I hope that Joe's campaign is listening to our recommendations.
I do hope so. And I hope they tell him to just lean into some of these gaffes. Not all of them, obviously. But come on, you can't apologize for every doggone thing, especially not with the current occupant of the Oval Office.
They're going to have to work on his verbal fluency.
No, I don't think.
His verbal fluency. You can correct.
Old dog, Landria. That's a new trick.
Listen, I'm a therapist. I'm going to just put that hat on for a minute. I'm going to take it off real fast.
You don't do geriatric therapy, but go ahead.
I have. I trained for it. All right. You can improve verbal fluency in people. Yes, you can.
All right.
Yes. So funny. Every time I listen, I'm like, come on, people.
See, the problem is, he only has 2 modes. The first mode is decidedly not fun. When he's on script, and he's just on script, and it's the worst. And when he's on script, I just really want him to get to that comfortable place where he just kind of says the thing.
Yeah.
But then when he gets to that comfortable place, some of the time, he just puts his foot in it, and it's just like, man. But I like Comfortable Joe,
I like Comfortable Joe, too. Comfortable Joe needs to have some executive language skills so that there's a level of prediction and forethought in what he says before he says it, and that can be fixed too.
Landria, so you are telling me that in all his years as a senator, as vice president, that no one tried this, and now while he's under pressure running this campaign is the moment for him to put on some new skills.
So I'm an elitist, and I'm going to say this. He was in Delaware.
Apologies to our listeners in Delaware. I'm not going to say anything.
Right. I stepped in it. I stepped in it. And so there's
Would you say, yeah, I said it?
Yeah, I said it. See how you doing? Yes, I said it. There's a different level of communication expectation across geographic boundaries. So an East Coast person a New Yorker is expected to have a certain communication style. A person from Delaware is pretty much, from a communication style standpoint, there is no style. So the expectations of how he would perform as a senator so he just had to get the job done. A New Yorker, I mean, look at Cuomo, the brother, Andrew? Cuomo, thank you. Cuomo, I mean, there is a level of style that he has. So it's not just what he says, it's how he says it. It's not that he's just been able to pass legislation or not as governor. It's the style of it's his persona.
But that's fine. I mean, you can say what you say with no style, but that doesn't mean you have to trip over yourself every time you do it.
Nobody listens to you if you say what you say with no style.
So what are you saying about Delaware? I mean, I guess, are you saying that Delaware has no style? Even if Delaware has no style, the point is, even if Delaware has no style, even if that is true, after all these years, he shouldn't be tripping over whatever he's saying, whether it's something or nothing. I mean, let it come.
If no one has corrected you and it's not been a level of focus, you've had multiple times to be disfluent. So it's like, teaching a child how to, say the letter A when they see the letter A. If every time they say C, every time they say A, every time you show them A, and that happens 20 times, they've had 20 opportunities that they've gotten it wrong. So the likelihood of them saying A becomes lessened just because they're used to being a certain way or having a certain answer.
For Joe Biden's team, call Landria Seals Green. She can fix them. Apparently.
Well, ethically, I cannot say that I can fix anything.
I can.
Well, to Joe Biden's team, if you want to design a hard-nosed approach for winning, I'd advise you in terms of marketing and all the other innovative things that need to happen. Jamila Carrington Smith is your woman.
Oh, see? Shucks.
We both got a job.
Thanks for listening, and look out soon for season 1. To contact us to give us comments or show topic suggestions, email us at fancyblacklady@gmail.com or find us on our social media handles, Fancy Black Lady.